Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for yet another episode of the Blast Proof Showcase Showdown here, reaction videos. Today, this is episode 10, pretty excited. Another one, we've gone back to the self-incorporated scenario. This should be a good one. I'm not even going to spoil it for you. I'm going to let you just see what it's about because I think it has a lot. It has many ties in with what we're experiencing today here in the 21st century, some almost 50 years after this video was shot. So stay tuned. We're going to learn a lot about the mindset of a revolutionary. Stick around. Okay, so here we go. Episode 10. This is going to be a big one. I don't know what I'm going to watch, so we're both in for a surprise. Completely ad-libbed. No idea. But here's the show. And I had to pick this because so far, this by and large, the self-incorporated videos have been the best. Without any sort of question. Well, a couple of questions. But with that devil child at the end, it's, you know, you're in for an exciting time, and I know that this episode's just going to kick ass.
I'm only using this tape for my own information. No one else will hear this. It's just so I can get the quotations.
It's like from 13 Reasons Why.
Mr. Langston, where do things stand now?
Nice stash.
The whole matter to the Board of Education at their next meeting. Mrs. Cole and Matt will be there.
Where do things stand now?
Oh, it's like a court proceedings.
We've agreed to discuss everything with the school board.
Well, what is
Mother
everything?
/ lawyer.
First of all, every school policy which affects student rights.
And to get a new
Some
election
horrible
declared
camera work.
and get the suspension taken off my
What
record.
is he, like,
Well, tell me,
student
Matt,
/
How did
plaintiff?
it all get started?
Well, it actually got started in a history class project.
Any more questions for group one?
All right, guys.
Very good, group one. Now,
Very good. C-.
all right, come on, group two. Let's go. Let's go.
What is this,
Let's
like
make
a
it group two. Come on, Matt. We don't have much
Battle
time
of the
now.
finish?
Okay, our subject is political reform, and the way that we could start
All
political
right,
reform
little Richie
is to
Cunningham.
change things in this school. Tracy's going to tell you about it. Tracy?
Okay, communists.
Things to reform. One, we want more of an open school.
What do you mean by more open schools?
Exactly.
Like being able to go off school grounds during lunchtime.
Carry handguns.
Okay, two, we don't think we should have hall passes.
Does that mean we can go to the library anytime we want to?
Who wants to go to the library?
Okay. Look, everybody will be able to get
Okay,
into
come on.
ideas and questions later on, okay?
Oh,
Finish
look
up,
at
Tracy.
that eye.
Three, we don't think we should have grades.
Open liquor. He's the Karl Marx of the group.
Terry?
We thought about the real political parties and their conventions.
Yeah.
They put together a platform.
Seems
It's
a little
list of things
uncomfortable.
they plan to do. And we thought
He's a
if
snappy
everyone
dresser,
running
though.
for student offices in the school would put out a platform, then the other students would know what they stand for.
I think the problems with this platform
Oh.
idea were obvious right from the start.
Let's add on.
See, it's a
Let's add
revolution
Anybody
starting.
Got anything you want to add? Done.
I think they had a good idea about going out for lunch, but with the time we have now, it doesn't make sense to go anywhere. We have to have more
That's
time
right,
to
you're
be
not
there.
allowed.
Yeah, right.
He's like, oh, you're full of shit.
I think we should have just as much power as the teachers. And if we have a bad teacher, we
Wow. This is communist reform. You're Stu. Okay. It's going to be a lynching here in a second. They're going to kill that guy.
Getting up shouting in class, disorderly,
Oh, wow.
showing no respect whatsoever.
We weren't the ones who were making the noise.
Well, these
We were
kids
just
are
trying
in
to present our
deep
ideas to the
doo-doo.
class.
And that's what free speech is all about.
Until they had the executions.
Presenting their ideas because you're afraid of what someone else will do.
In order to have a good learning experience, you have to
All right,
have
here we
the
go.
atmosphere of freedom in the classroom.
Freedom of choice.
I'm sure my being a lawyer has been some influence on that. We talk about
Whoa,
politics
wow.
at the dinner table. Everybody's encouraged to develop
Nice
his own
plaid
views.
outfit.
I
What
think
is that? That's a
politics is my hobby.
It's my
rhino
job to
or something.
anticipate trouble. I've got to protect
guy
the
thinks he's
rights of the majority to get an
the
education.
President of the United States.
Well, I propose to the student council that they make it a rule that anybody who runs for any kind of student council office has
Must
to have a platform.
provide
Any
DNA.
questions? Ideas? Mike?
Will you define platform for us?
What is the
Platforms
Ministry of
like
Health?
If somebody's running for certain offices or something, they tell what they want to do. If they want to change rules or make better the rules that are there, or, get something done.
or kill somebody.
I think people just lie. They'll use that line, vote for me and I'll set you free.
Man, if
All
you
right,
think
here he
they're
goes. He's
lying,
spitting
don't vote
truths.
for them. You can tell when people are lying.
Really, I'm lying right now.
Okay, anybody?
Mr. Baker, do you think Mr. Langston will let us try to change all these rules?
Ah, to hell with Mr. Langsford.
Try and find out.
Okay,
Robespierre. Oh, here we go. Now it begins.
Who's all against it?
2/3 of the student council, the most responsible students in the school, voted against the idea.
And he did it anyway.
I would still have to ask myself whether or not in good conscience I could turn this school into a political arena.
You know, Judge,
The
that
Guy
the
Fawkes
student council
affair.
voted against having everybody run on a platform.
Right, yes.
Well, Matt and I decided that our platform was good and that we were going to
It
run no
wasn't
matter
great,
what.
but
And once we knew that we were running, I thought, well, why don't we get other people to run for the other offices, and we could all run together,
you know,
be a slate,
people that we
and
could
then
control.
We could really get something done.
So you got together a slate of candidates in
Okay,
your
right
history
there.
class.
Right.
He's part of the inner
Was it
party.
the same group that thought of the platform idea?
Yeah, we were all friends and we were all pretty political.
Hey, how about ACT?
Alliance
for Constructive Teaching.
A construction.
Yeah, that's
In our nation, action.
Yeah,
action.
Action.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Actions
It kinda
louder than
seems
words,
that,
boys and
the
girls.
subject really isn't about teaching. It's
Now,
about
who's gonna
rights.
get the
That's what we're
dynamite?
trying to Think of something that has to do with rights.
reform.
See, political activism
going to
starts
happen.
young.
Soon.
When?
No, wait a minute, that doesn't work. It's a T and
Well, see, it
Sure.
starts in small gatherings like this.
Students unified for rights.
of expression.
Hey, that's good.
This late was I ran for president.
Oh, yeah,
Tracy
so
for
now
vice president,
he's the fall
Terry
guy
for
if something goes
secretary,
wrong.
Monica for treasurer.
What next?
Well, we wanted to get known.
Well, who's
So
going to be
Tracy
like the
wrote up an article for the school
secret
newspaper.
police?
This article is the opinion of a special interest group. If I print this opinion, I've got to print everybody's opinions.
But this will make it more
Oh, now
interesting.
they're
I
taking
think
over
it
the
would get out of
media.
hand pretty quickly.
A lot of stuff they print in the paper, nobody reads.
It's actually topical. I
Isn't the
like
chess club a
this.
special interest group? And what about the Y?
Those groups are open to everybody.
Well, look at sports. If you're not good enough for a
Hey,
team,
man,
they'll cut you.
let's just don't get into all of that.
Just cut the
okay?
crap,
Try to see
all
this
right?
thing from my point of view for a minute. I've got the whole community to answer to. I've got the school
Oh,
board,
he's got the
I've got your
burden of
parents,
the entire
I've got
society on
everybody
his
else's
shoulders.
parents, and I don't think for a minute they're going to stand by and watch the school attacked through the school newspaper.
We're not attacking.
It's just
I mean,
not
who
gonna
do you think
happen.
puts up the money for the school newspaper? It's the school board.
Mr. Langston, we're not attacking the school.
We're just
I'd say
we're
you've got
just
some pretty negative ideas about
rebellious.
some of its policies.
Well, I'd say we've got positive approaches to making better rules.
It's going to be an
Seems to
armed
me you kept
conflict
pretty
here in a
calm.
second.
Yeah, we all decided before we went in that nobody would get mad. If we
We're all
did, he'd just
carrying.
throw us all out and say, I told you so. They're all just a bunch of troublemakers.
I would
Wow.
advise any student who's going to stand up for his rights to do it calmly, politely, and constructively.
At first.
If you attack, why then the people have no response other than to get mad at you, and sometimes they have a lot of power over you.
Mm,
If you're reasonable,
firepower.
then they have a chance to be reasonable back.
Matt, I
At what
assume
point-
that you didn't take Mr. Langston's advice and drop the whole thing.
No.
But you did give up on the
These
article?
guys.
We made our own mimeograph of it.
How did you feel about
Oh.
the SHU students handing out mimeographs of their slate and platform?
Their
They were
manifesto.
within their rights. I tried to tell them it was bad judgment, but
Judgment is a funny thing.
Sure is.
Nobody can be right all the time. No matter how wise and experienced a
Mom.
person is, he needs to listen to the ideas of others. That's the ideal of our democratic society.
Here these kids were taking the education.
Now
that they
this
learned
guy's
from
on
passion and
on the
music
hook
in
for
real
what
life.
they did.
That's what it's all about. Because history is not something that just happened 200 years ago. It's happening today, tomorrow.
What happened
At
next?
least that guy's like
Tracy and
got a
I
level head
proposed
about
to
the whole
student
thing.
council. They make the sheer slate official candidates in the election.
How did that go?
bunch of political BS.
All for, all against.
There we go.
here again, you had the existing student council voting heavily against their proposal.
Oh boy.
This proves something.
What would you
They're
say?
a bunch
it
of bad apples.
It proves to me that we already have a pretty good way of installing student officers.
What was the normal procedure for nominating candidates?
Yeah.
for office?
What is it?
Well, the student council nominates 2 people for each office. And they have
A
to be
third
approved
one
by
is
the
a
principal and the
patsy.
faculty advisor.
I could have vetoed the nominations of Matt and Tracy right then, but I respected their right to get nominated
Oh
through the
yeah,
normal
Mr.
procedure.
Mr. High
You
Road.
got nominated for president, and Tracy for vice president anyway.
Right.
You can chisel that on my grave. This man believes in normal
Chisel
procedure.
that on my
How did the
grave.
Slate run its campaign?
You're a principal of a high
we
school.
handed out a few more mimeograph sheets.
The
Well, we
owl.
wanted to put up posters, but
My feeling about the posters was that some of these kids hadn't been
They'd
nominated.
been
through normal
radicalized.
procedure and didn't have a right to put up posters.
we were a group that stood for something. We wanted to campaign.
Some of these sure candidates
Fascists.
really didn't have a chance. They were just trying to ride in on the popularity of Matt and Tracy.
Tracy and I wanted to put sure after our names on the ballots, but he
What?
wouldn't allow that either.
If I let
Put
Matt
what?
and Tracy put sure after their names on the ballot, they would have had a tremendous advantage because of the publicity.
I
was
don't
already
understand.
getting phone
Oh,
calls from
their
some of the
party.
parents because of the mimeograph sheets.
What happened in the assembly?
The
Well,
propaganda
every officially
war.
nominated candidate is supposed to make a short speech before the student body. Tracy and I made an agreement to talk about sure.
Oh,
and
a
asked
little
people to write their
insider
names for
dealing.
Terry and Monica.
If I'm elected vice president, I will do my best
What
to
a
get the
turnout
things
for
done
this
that you
event.
feel and I feel should be changed. So vote for me.
Boom. Hiss. Here, here. Settle down.
Keep the whistling and the yelling down, please. Your applause will be sufficient. Our next candidate for vice president of the student council is Tracy Wong.
It's gonna come out with like a black armband or something.
Thank you, Mr. Langston.
Thank you, comrades.
Thank you, everybody.
I mean, students.
First thing that I would like to say is that I'm up here as part of the Sure Slate, which stands
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold on now.
for right.
Let's hold that down.
Just a second. I want to make a couple of ground rules right
Okay,
here.
no goose
I hope they
stepping.
wouldn't be necessary. Number
No.
one, there will be
Oh,
no campaigning
saluting.
for any candidate or slate except those officially nominated.
except
I
Mr.
kinda got
Slate.
disgusted because, well, I didn't think it was right, and plus, I didn't know what to say next. And
So that's why we slashed the principal's tires and burned his car.
Is that clear to you?
You hear me?
All right, you may proceed then.
Okay. One more outburst like that. Get everybody stunned.
there's nothing else I want to say.
I just wanted
you.
to say I was part of the Slate group.
I was scared. Everybody knew I was the other person Mr. Langston was talking to.
Yeah.
Our last candidate is candidate for president of the student council, Matt Cole. Matt?
Okay, Mr. Slate. Nice jacket. Communist red.
I'm
Oh, here we go.
speaking softly. What I
Carry a
say I
big
believe
stick.
is right. I think it's wrong for them to forbid me to talk about sure.
Ooh.
Our candidates are Tracy.
Please just take your seat.
Before I bitch slap you.
Quiet, please.
Okay,
All right,
Mr.
you have
Leahy.
heard the speeches of all the candidates.
Or
You may have an
censored
opportunity
versions.
to vote for the candidates of your choice this afternoon during 6-hour class.
6 hour
Please do not vote
class.
for Matt Cole. Matt has
Whoa.
disqualified himself.
Ooh.
Not placed your votes.
Oh, there's
This
going to be
kid was
rioting.
so intent on ramrodding through this sure thing that he directly disobeyed me in front of the whole student body.
Made me look
He
like an
disrupted
asshole.
the process of student elections. Now, if I let this go by, how am I supposed to run this school?
Friend of mine who helped count the votes said I got a
It's
lot
a
of
damn
votes
good
anyway.
question.
And you got suspended.
Yeah, for 2 days.
Second, I think the suspension ought to be taken off Matt's record. I consider
Oh
it
my
very
God,
detrimental
really?
and substantially unfair to him.
I'm not willing to do that. Matt is a responsible person, and he did what he did.
Mr. Langston,
Way to go,
you
dummy.
forced Matt into a confrontation.
No one forced Matt into anything.
You forced him
this
to
is gonna
back
end up
down
badly.
on everything he stood for. I consider that a confrontation.
Mrs. Cole,
Nice tie.
I'm not saying I did everything right here. I'm saying that
You
what
could
I
chisel
did,
that
I
on my
believe
grave.
was right. Now, if you wish, I'm willing to take the whole thing and put it before the school board.
What if the
Oh.
school board decides against you?
Well, I wouldn't feel very good about it.
They're going to see
We would have
Big
to think
enclave
out
in the Bronx.
everything very carefully and decide if we want to take it any further.
Yeah, if the school board decides that next year we'll have slates and platforms. I can live with that.
Oh, now he's like
Give
all
us time
calm
to have
about
orderly
everything
change.
Would you do it all over again?
in a heartbeat.
Sure.
Self-Incorporated was supported
Ooh.
by a consortium of
So was this
35
supposed to be like
educational
about
agencies.
rebellion in the schools or what? Anyway, that was a hell of an episode. Gives us something to think
program
about
was produced
in this
by
day and age,
KETC
where everybody's
Television,
talking
St.
about
Louis,
free
Missouri.
speech and their
Under the
ability to
supervision of AIT,
do what you want,
Agency for Instructional
even if
Television.
it doesn't involve a bloody revolution. So thanks very much for tuning in. Episode 10. Peace.